Hi everyone, it's Eliza. Welcome back to another episode of my channel. For those of you who don't know, I am building a tech company at the moment from the ground up, and I like to do these videos talking about my experience as we go through it so that we can all learn things along the way. The gang is back together again. This is my dog Percy. It's 2 hours before his dinner time, so naturally he's going to start annoying me about it already. Oh my god, Percy. But can you be quiet, please? So today I want to talk about roadblocks, and specifically what to do when you come up against a roadblock. This is a little bit different from my previous video on difficult decisions. Check out my channel for that video, because this is something external that has happened that has made you reevaluate, as opposed to something that you're deciding to do one way or the other. So a roadblock can be anything. It can be a stagnation in customer acquisition, or being over budget, or things like that. In our case, it has to do with a technical problem that we've come across, which means that we might be having to make some trade-offs over how our product actually functions. And the whole thing has obviously been difficult, and I don't know that we're through it yet, but I wanted to take this time to have some of my thoughts onto what's been helpful so far. So number one, I think it's really important to realize that having roadblocks is not unusual. In fact, it's pretty common. And that sounds like it's pretty much common sense, but when you're going through it, you tend to have a feeling like, oh, I'm the only one who's ever had problems, and everyone else has built companies and it's been like easy the whole way. And that's just not true. Even if people don't tell you all the time, the fact is that everyone is struggling. It's much easier to talk about it when you've got a full-time job. You know, I know so many people who will consistently say like, oh, my job sucks. But sometimes there's a pressure to not talk about how difficult it can be an entrepreneur, because you're sort of pursuing your dream and every part about it is supposed to be amazing. And so a lot of the times you don't get to hear about the rough stuff. So you can be tempted to think that it doesn't exist for other people. But I assure you it does. Like, I've had some very difficult days recently, and I suspect I will have difficult days in the future, and they're just the fact of life. Being able to take that step back, realizing that roadblocks happen in every single company's life cycle, in every single person's life cycle, I think is helpful for breaking down that myth of isolation and that there's something wrong with you, or that you're somehow worse than everyone else, because that's just not the case. So number two, and this goes a bit more to dealing with the problem, and that would be consulting the expert in whatever it is that your problem is about. Again, this probably sounds like common sense, but it can be very helpful to engage someone who has either more experience than you, or has more data than you in that field, that you're worried about. So if you have a technical problem, consult a technical expert on that issue. If you're having a marketing problem, consult a marketing person. Part of, I think, being a successful entrepreneur is building that network of really valuable mentors, who you can always go to with problems and who will really listen, and who will provide you advice on how to proceed. Even if you think that you are the expert in the field, so like for me, I pretty much handle everything that's not technical. So it can be tempting if there's a problem with marketing, it can be tempting for me to say like, oh, I am the one in charge of marketing, therefore I am the expert. And you know that's just not true necessarily a lot of the time. I'm not saying that you don't have experience. What I'm saying is, even if you have all the experience in the world, sometimes being able to talk it through with someone who has a similar level of experience can help you talk through the problem and figure out new angles with which to attack it. Number 3, try to have some sort of action plan. So sometimes things can seem scary because it's like, this is my only plan, and if this particular way doesn't work, then it's a failure. But sometimes it can be comforting to realize that even in like the worst case scenario, aka your company fails, you can probably pick yourself back up again. It's sort of it's a reassurance that this is not the end of the world, and sometimes just taking yourself away from that brink can help you see the possibilities. So number 4, realize what you can and you can't let go of. So there's a tendency to get very used to your story and your company as you see it in the present, or as it's been developing right now, which is good. You should have a very strong sense of self. But part of that needs to be what you want to hang on to and what you can let go of. And whether that's features, whether that's a market segment that you've been pursuing, but that's not actually the optimal one, whether it's a particular business model that you're operating on right now. There are a lot of things that you think are essential, but they may not be. The question is always, does this product in its iteration right now solve the problem or a problem for consumers such that they're willing to pay the price that you're asking for it? Probably the easiest way to do that would be to ask your customers if you have them. If not, you can always run surveys, do informal interviews, and just say, like, is this feature essential to you, or can you let it go? Or would you be willing to pay? Like, let's say you either could do an upfront cost or a subscription service, which you could say, are you willing to pay X high amount of dollars right now? Or would you prefer paying Y amount of dollars every month for a year? You'll realize then that a lot of the things that you assumed had to be true when you were doing it are not necessarily required. And so if you get too bogged down with the constraints that you've set upon yourself, it can make the roadblocks seem really, really unachievable. Number 5. Sometimes it can be helpful to work on something else for a little while, just so you can get that distance. One of my favorite things to do are crossword puzzles. Sometimes there's a clue that I really, really don't understand, and I have no idea how to do it, and it can be frustrating. And then I'll go and do something else for an hour. I'll do some work or think about something completely different, and then I come back and that same crossword clue is super easy. I've solved it. It's been somehow ruminating in the back of my mind, and I haven't even realized it. I think something similar can happen with roadblocks that you've come across, where if you sort of change your track to something else, when you get back to it, you might have a clearer picture of what you should do. Now, this one's a little bit of a tricky one because there is a tendency to just avoid the problem kind of indefinitely and push it off until it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. You definitely don't want to do that. I would suggest literally like setting a timer on your phone or something that goes off in 3 hours from now or the next day, so that you force yourself to come back to the issue at hand. So definitely make sure that it stays very short term, but being able to switch yourself, being able to distract a little bit, it can also help make the roadblock seem like less of a big deal. And also your very powerful, impressive mind may have thought of something in the meantime, or see something online while you're doing research that can spur you back to it. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I think the most important thing to remember is to just try and keep your cool, as difficult as that may be. Yes, it's a challenge. Loads of people get challenges. Loads of people overcome challenges. You can do this. Just sort of keep breathing, keep pushing through. Sometimes it is, they say like part of the work is just showing up. just kind of keep working at it and keep chipping away. So you shouldn't get down on yourself too much. You will find a way forward. I'm probably going to keep coming back to this own video and watching myself when this will inevitably get difficult for me again. So this is helpful for me. I hope that it's been helpful for you. If you like this video, if you like what I'm doing on this channel, please subscribe. Please share this video with friends. Please leave comments about what your thoughts are, how you like to work through roadblocks. And that's it for me. Thanks so much. And keep building. All right, bye.